Hi, I'm Justine Smith with CUTV's Beyond the Film Festival. Today we are beginning our Fantasia film coverage and we will be discussing 2 killer doll movies. Why killer doll movies? One, because we have the new movie Curse of Chucky, which is having its world premiere at the festival. And 2, it's kind of in honor of James Wong, who's having his film open the festival, The Conjuring, but he made the film Dead Silence. So we're going to be talking about Child's Play, the first Chucky movie, and Dead Silence. And my guest today is Ethan. Hi, Ethan.
Hey.
So how are you today?
I'm pretty good. I'm definitely excited to talk about killer doll movies.
It's the best of all killer inanimate objects, for sure.
Yeah, it's up there at least.
So, for me, I've never seen Child's Play. I decided to watch it for the first time just for this.
Yeah.
My familiarity with it really comes from The Simpsons.
Yeah.
Krusty doll, that's Chucky for me, and of course seeing it everywhere. It's like impossible to not know what Chucky is in this modern world.
Yes, Chucky definitely epitomizes kind of the horror VHS cover, you know what I mean? Like going to Blockbuster with your parents as a kid and wandering off the horror section looking at all these like freaky covers and seeing like, you know, Chucky with like the big pair of scissors about to cut the Jack-in-the-Box and whatnot. That was something that really scared me as a kid. And I didn't see the movies until I was like 12, 13. And I mean, I kind of liked them then, but watching it again just this morning, I think it's in that realm, that subgenre of killer puppet movies. It's pretty good. I think it has some craft to it, and I think it's very lucky to have the voice performance by Brad Dourif.
Yeah, Brad Dourif is amazing. He really brings so much personality to Chucky. I like the animatronics too. I was surprised at how animated Chucky's face is and how sinister he looks.
Yeah.
Because he consistently looks through it like a doll. Even when you have like the stand-in actor playing him, like you still have that quality of kind of inanimate brought to life, and his facial expressions are quite fluid, but at the same time plasticky. And it kind of unnerves me.
Yeah, and I like it too how throughout the movie he's just repeating kind of the "I'm Chucky," but then like that's like when she's gonna like throw him in the fire, then Brad Dourif voice kicks in, "Ah, you bitch," or whatever. That is pretty scary.
It's pretty scary. It's pretty shocking. The movie reminds me a lot of like a less lighthearted version of Gremlins too.
Yeah.
I think because it has that sort of 80s horror aesthetic, which is kind of blockbustery, kind of bright, lots of fun. It's not like the dark, sinister of the 70s or even the 90s.
Though it is kind of taking the POV shots of Halloween. Like there's a lot of like
for
Chucky's.
Sure. I like those.
Yeah, they're good.
And they're really quick paced and they're really fast and quite impressive. Like I think it might not be the first one, but one of the earliest is when Chucky's running into the house, the like kind of abandoned house to avenge his death. One of them.
Yeah.
That was really impressive and really not scary, but like shocking and really well made and really engaging. I also really loved about the movie just the fact that it's consistently quite scary. I was surprised at how much I was jumping in my seat while watching it, but it's also very funny.
Yeah.
And that kind of, it has that disturbing edge of, is it a children's movie or isn't it? It's like it's not really a horror movie for kids, but it kind of is.
Well, yeah, it's really preying on the fear. Like I said, when I was a kid, really scared because like every kid, like Chucky, I think is based on the Cabbage Patch Dolls. You could say.
Probably, yeah.
And every kid has that fear. It instantly preys on that fear that kids have, like that doll coming to life and like killing you.
I never had that fear as a kid. I never imagined like my dolls were coming to life and gonna kill me.
I guess that's the difference between Winnipeg and Montreal. But also, I think though what is to me the weakest part of this movie is kind of the voodoo element. I find whenever it's actually getting into explaining how Chucky is getting into this, how the serial killer got into this body, it gets weird. There's a scene where he goes to the guy who like taught him voodoo.
Yeah.
I think it's the stupidest scene in the movie because he has a voodoo doll of himself and he's like, I'll break your leg. And it's like, why would you keep a voodoo doll of yourself? And that's I think is kind of the lamest part of the movie.
That's true. I think they were just, I did enjoy it because I do think voodoo is very fascinating, but on the other hand, it does feel less integrated into that universe. I think just aesthetically, I think maybe they could have gone a similar direction and kind of integrated it more on like, I don't want to say cutesy, but kind of more cutesy level, or not cutesy enough. I don't know. It didn't feel totally integrated, but I think it's a legitimate answer as to the whole explanation of how Chucky came to be.
Mm-hmm.
Because how else is it supposed to explain a serial... Is he a serial killer? Or,
yeah, I think he's the
he's a bad guy. Like, a bad guy gets resurrected as a doll. You have to find an explanation for that. You can't just let it happen.
Yeah, and I guess what you should mention, too, with this series is that it's kind of like the Nightmare on Elm Street series. I mean, you said it's funny, but, I mean, where Chucky progressively got goofier and goofier to the point where I think, like, Bride of Chucky and Seed of Chucky are almost, like, full-out horror comedies, the way, like...
Yeah. Well, actually, Seed of Chucky is the only other one I've seen in the whole series. And it's pretty funny. I actually really enjoyed it as well. I like the whole series. I think it's a really cool idea, and it's really well done. I do think it's really the character design that kind of elevates, and the voice work.
Definitely.
In the like, even like for not Bride of Chucky, but the character, you have like Jennifer Tilly, who's like perfect for that universe, perfect for that role as well. It's a movie that really, I don't want to say, because this movie is all about, for me, it's all about Chucky, and it's all about Brad Dourif. I like the little kid, though. I thought he was really adorable, and like, he was like a perfect child, because he actually behaved like a child does. Unlike so many movies where they're really precocious. But the adult cast on a whole, I wasn't totally sold on. I do like Chris Sarandon, but he was fairly unexceptional.
Yeah, he's not given much to do.
The mother was okay, but not that memorable either. It's really, the whole movie is centered on how awesome.
Though I was kind of sympathetic to her friend at the beginning. I was like, oh, I'll babysit him for you. It's like, oh, this is good. It's like, she really loves her son.
Yeah, her friend was a really nice person, and was actually quite funny.
Yeah,
the jokes she kept making. She's like, this is gonna be the hottest date I've had.
Yeah, and I felt bad she was the first person to go in the movie too.
But you have to kind of build that up. No, well, technically she's not. To Chucky.
Yeah,
but,
I guess that's true.
The birth of Chucky is actually the first person to go.
I guess that's true.
And come back.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I personally highly recommend this movie. I don't know if you've never seen it, you have to. Even if you don't like horror, it's not that scary. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, I think in terms of, like, 80s slashers, maybe it's, like, in the it's, like, upper middle. Like, not quite the top tier, but, like... the middle tier, like the top of the...
The top of the
I'm
middle.
really getting into the higher...
So it's like the upper middle class of horror slashers.
Yeah.
I can relate to that, yeah. And are you excited for the new one, Curse of Chucky?
Yeah, I'm definitely, because we should mention it's written and directed by Don
Mancini, I think?
Yeah, who's written all of the Chucky movies, so he's the godfather of the series.
It's really rare that happens. I mean, I can't even think of another series that's that prolific that has the same writer throughout the whole thing, so that's definitely worth seeing.
Yeah, and it's still got Brad Dourif, so...
I know, it's a solid series. I imagine that it will be at least on the same level. Hopefully, you always want it to overcome, but I think it'll be great.
Yeah.
So, I guess we should move on to the second movie.
Yes.
Dead Silence from 2007, starring Jason Stackhouse from True Blood. Yeah. And a puppet, apparently.
And Mark Wahlberg's brother.
Oh, yeah, Donnie Wahlberg. The greatest Wahlberg after Mark.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't lie. I can't pretend I can't pretend that
What other Wahlbergs are there other than those two?
There's others, right?
Probably.
I'm thinking of the Baldwins. No. So Dead Silence is about a ventriloquist dummy who apparently murders Jason Stackhouse. I don't know his real name.
Just call him that.
Jason Stackhouse's wife, apparently. And then Jason Stackhouse has to go back to his small town to bury her, to confront his father, and to find the truth about the murder. Yeah. People die along the way. There's evil puppets. It's kind of really the basic premise.
Yeah, I'd say the movie it was better than I expected because it's very well made. But I also run into this problem with it where I think that James Wan to me is more a technician than I think a voice. Like, he's good. He's definitely watched a lot of horror movies. He knows what he's doing. His movies are self-aware, I think, in not too obnoxious of a way. But there's a point where it just sort of starts feeling like it's more horror for horror's sake. You know what I mean?
I kind of know what you mean. I mean, he seems like a very much like a tech... I completely agree. He's a technician, and his movies are actually very beautiful to look at. Mm-hmm. And I'm always amazed at the transitions he makes, like how he moves from one shot to the next or one scene to the next. Yeah. Is always almost flamboyantly over the top. He's like, you can't just cut to black. You can't just cut. It's always like there's like a moving camera and suddenly you're in the next shot, you're in a new location. And incredibly impressive, and he does it beautifully. But on the other hand, the movie feels kind of flat, and I think part of it has to do with what you're saying. He seems like someone who's seen a huge amount of horror movies. I would not be surprised if he's like seen everything worth seeing ever. Like he's like a Quentin Tarantino in terms of how much he watches. But I don't know if he absorbs it in a way that's that interesting. It's like he rehashes cliches.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, you have Quentin Tarantino is a perfect example of someone who absorbs culture, rehashes it into something new. Or even Joss Whedon in Cabin in the Woods. He took horror movies and he went over all the tropes and reinvented it in a creative way.
Or even people who use like horror to express something kind of personal that you could only accept in horror, like John Carpenter, or Lucio Fulci, or whoever. And there's actually two areas where I think it could have elevated the movie a little that I think are interesting. There's kind of this gothic melodrama going on with his dad, which I think is actually pretty fun and has a nice little twist to it. And I think it could have gone a little more in that direction. And two, there's kind of this idea of the small town and kind of the folklore. Those are the two things I think could have been explored more. It would have, again, it made the movie, it would have elevated from just kind of exercise to, like a little more maybe.
Yeah, it did feel unsubstantial, I would say, because you don't have, I never felt like an emotional involvement in the action or in the film. And ultimately, it's like, I'm not going to remember I even watched it in like a year. I'm going to be like, Dead Silence, I'll watch that, it looks cool.
Like, what, I've seen this?
But it might take me a while to even remember that. I'll be like, maybe I'm just thinking of True Blood, because with Jason Statham. Because it does even have, to me, it looks like a TV show, like a really high production TV show. He has like that kind of new television aesthetic. Yeah.
Well, he's sort of like a classicist who kind of has but like MTV flourishes everywhere.
Yeah, he kind of has that. He feels very youthful, but like almost too youthful in a way that's not fun or inviting. It's like he's trying to be something that he's not. That sounds really awful because I'm sure he's a very nice person who makes great movies. But I don't know. This one didn't quite work for me. I can't recommend it that highly. Yeah. Luckily, I think Saw is way cooler.
Well, luckily he has 3 more movies coming out within a year. So
luckily, yes. Yeah. Luckily. I do think I will check out The Conjuring, though. It does seem up my alley. And in spite of not liking Insidious, I liked all the elements that went into it. So I'm hoping that if he kind of continues, he'll eventually kind of hit a stride, I guess.
Yeah, and maybe he's doing Fast and Furious 7. Maybe that's the right fit, an action movie.
Well, there you go. So that's our take on a couple of killer doll movies. Be sure to let us know what you think of either these movies, Fantasia, or if you have your own favorite killer doll, inanimate doll-like object movie. Be sure to check it out. So that's it. I hope you enjoy the show. Thank you very much.